All right, welcome back, everyone, to episode 6 of Seat at the Table with me, Brad Walsh, and my partner in crime, Betsy, Jiranek. This week, we have a very, very special guest. I was going to save this one for like a little bit later until we really got into our groove, but then
we're in our groove.
You're right.
We're in our groove.
The groove. We're like Stella. We got our groove back. We're good. We have very special guests. As I said, this person, I started thinking about it when we were because a lot of people have started asking us to be guests on the podcast. They're begging to be on. I'm getting texts like nonstop as these things are dropping. But I found it interesting, and when I was thinking about the next guest, we talk about Terry a lot on the podcast. We reference him. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what? We got to bring Big T himself into the podcast studio. Let's let it all hang out here, and let's see where we're going to go. This is going to be a interesting conversation because I have no idea where the hell we're going with it. And we said no script, no pre-planned questions. We're just going for it today. So with that beautiful, beautiful introduction, T-Bone, welcome to Seat at the Table.
Appreciate you having me, Brad and Betsy. Looking forward to it, and haven't done this before, so something new, something different.
I think it's really important to point out that Terry is Brad's uncle.
Yes.
Like that. I'm the outsider here for sure, but I think that relationship, you can actually sense it when you all talk, whether it's title or whether you're talking about what Terry's wearing or what tie he's got.
I'm in a constant process of mentoring Brad. I'm working right now on how to grow a beard. He's a little slow to the uptake, but he's getting there. He's working on it. It's coming in. It's working on it.
The thing about the beard is it's much higher maintenance than I ever gave it credit to. And I think that's why I didn't go for a beard for so long was the maintenance portion of it it's brutal.
Let me give you a little advice on that. As you get older, there's more hair. It grows faster. It grows in different places.
Different
it's
colors.
High maintenance. It's almost daily maintenance to keep it short and neat. And
I think there's nothing worse than someone that grows a beard that doesn't maintain it. Right? Like that's not a good look.
After it gets past a certain length, like I have a real problem with it, so I made the investment in like a nicer like beard trimmer, and so now I'm like
I'm
like
that one. Edward Scissorhands. I mean, I get cutting and trimming, and stuff is flying, and it rolls off. So it's a almost daily basis to keep my barber happy in the mirror.
Well, I appreciate you telling everyone that we are related because Terry and I have worked together since 2009, 8 or 9, somewhere in there.
Yep.
And it's amazing to me the amount of people who don't know that we're related. It's funny because a lot of times people are like, "Oh, was it a family business?" And at first I'm like, "Well, no, it's not like it was passed down or anything like that." But we do have several family members in the business now, so in some ways it's a family business, and in other ways it's wildly not. But
it makes a great chemistry, I think, and it also means people get more because when I work with my husband on things, it's good and bad because you never let it go. Like you're having dinner and you realize, oh, we're still talking about like business. So all the clients, what they gain from that, they're lucky, right? The
good news with Brad and I is we've worked so long together, and pre-law school for Brad all the way up. Learning everything, mentoring. We think a lot alike, generally speaking, on whether it's title, whether it's personal, whether it's business, our own finances. So we kind of go about the day, about the month, about the year in a similar thought process. And it's nice when you kind of think alike that you don't have to start from some base level that is not a commonality.
It also allows us to be authentically ourselves, and you don't have to. There's nothing worse than having to try and portray to be something other than you actually are. And, we talk about being authentic. I think one of the most important things we can be in this world is authentic. And it's so often I see people in our industry where, they put themselves out to be one thing on the internet and, like this great, I'm living this great life and all, but like you hear like backstories and you're like, oh, that divorce isn't going so hot over there, or or whatever.
We
hear a lot of the dirt on the backside, but it's also like how they treat people. They want to put themselves out to be these great philanthropists or awesome people, and then you see their communications on the backside, and you're like, I should call your mom and report you on, tell them to get some.
I tell people all the time that you have to be comfortable in your own skin.
Totally.
You have to be yourself. You have to dress the way you want to dress. Let them dress the way they want to dress. Brad and I work together.
And don't judge.
No, I'm good with it. I tell people all the time, just because I dress a certain way doesn't mean you should dress a certain way. You have to be comfortable. You have to be yourself. I grew up in a suit and tie. I'm comfortable on a daily basis.
And you look good
just
in it too,
day.
Terry. You look good in it. But
Tell
me, what is the one moment that the nephew-uncle relationship came out in business where you had, I don't know, maybe there was a transaction or where you had to be like, okay, I'm older and wiser, and you're my little nephew, and
wiser?
I'm gonna. Did that ever happen?
That's what we're going with.
Well, we're wiser.
Well,
we're like the same age, so that's
the way that I'll phrase it though, and generationally. So it's with nephew and uncle age difference. Brad and I worked together with a lot of agents and a lot of brokerages together. When Brad was coming into the business, we did a lot of networking together. So when I say I helped him, but he's got his own way of doing things, his own way of setting meetings, and there's so many more ways, more organized than me to accomplish it. But we work with dozens of agents as a team together. So therefore, it's like if I talk to someone on the weekend or Brad talks to someone, we don't have to necessarily fill each other in on every phone call or every email or text, because we can figure it out, and we think similar. So we solve problems in a similar way. So it's really worked well because we're not at odds. We rarely have a major difference of opinion about anything.
That's great.
And Brad, I joke and say, Brad's my work spouse. So we go to lunch, and Brad knows, anyone who knows me knows I like to talk. And
we're glad you're here today.
I gotta kick him underneath the table and be like,
most of the time, when we get on a business lunch, I don't order. I just look over at Brad, and Brad knows order.
He orders for you?
Yes, he orders for me. Brad has a great
I didn't know
taste.
That is
the
funny.
diet. Brad can pick out my food, beverage. Brad brings me something back from lunch. When I say, no, I'm good, I don't need anything, he knows when I need something because we work late most nights. So it's Brad is my work spouse.
Whenever I go to Terry is not good at ordering food for himself, just generally if he'll go.
You don't like to make decisions?
He'll go. He'll just go days without eating.
I'm talking. When I'm engaged in talking, hours go by. So Brad knows when to get me a beverage or when to get me something to eat or what to order for it, and it's not my last meal. So I'm very happy with whatever he picks out. He's got really good taste in picking out.
Whenever I go to lunch, I always order a larger size portion of whatever I'm going to eat. And then what I'll do is I'll come back from whatever meeting I'm at. He usually eats lunch at 1:45, which I'm coming back from a lunch appointment. And so he just goes, he'll look at my calendar and be like, so you're going over to Ziki for lunch today. Can I be expecting a hibachi
I say, Brad, I don't need anything, but you should order an extremely large size.
I knew that there was this relationship, but I guess it's great for me to hear this. I didn't know the depth of the food thing.
Well, the food thing came along more so to Terry's point about supporting each other. We've done it in different ways over the years, and when we first were building the business, I reviewed every title. I was doing all the policies. I reviewed every survey, and I was having all of the backside conversations with the agents, walking them through the issues. And Terry was at the table just closing deals left and right and left and right. So he was what I referred to as the front man. And even now in all of the relationships when Terry and I partner with on an agent together, they rarely see me at the table.
You love doing closings.
It's like oxygen for me.
Terry loves
it. It's like what?
It was like oxygen.
Mary Lee's like that.
Yeah, the day I don't get excited about getting a new transaction, I'll get out of the business. I love the business. I love getting new title orders. It energizes me.
Nothing better than that email that comes in that says, here's a new one, and you're like,
and going to the table, I tell people say, what do you do all day? I say, well, if business is good, I go to the table all day long. And they're like, meeting strangers, people you've never met before? I said, absolutely. That's the best part about it. I don't want to sit at my desk reviewing title. I want to be meeting people. Once you meet people at the end, I always say, our paths will cross again. If you haven't met them, if you haven't met them before, your paths can't cross again. But once you meet them, we go to a lot of events. Last night we were at the Take Your Girlfriends event, pouring some Prosecco, having some fun with all of the guests, and it was just like, it's like oxygen and energy to see people out and about. I love the networking. I love meeting people, and the number of people that came by our table last night that said, "Hey, you did our settlement. I've done 2 or 3 transactions with your company." And so it's really great to be that part of it. I like the front of it, and the people business that we're building something special in relationships where people will continue to come back. And you see it, Betsy, on our comments for the customer service and that they put on there. It's like, it's really refreshing and engaging and enriching to us to know that we're making a difference, that we're actually putting together a product that people are seeking. Our agents are referring it out because they know. People ask me all the time, say, "Terry, what business are you in?" I said, "I'm in the people business." And people laugh. And I say, "Oh, what do I do for a living?" That's different, but be in the people business. And being in the people business is loving to get together with people. I like people. I love people. On my feet when I go to an event like we had last night, Betsy, for 4 hours standing there just pouring.
The King Networker. Yeah. If you've never seen a Terry spin on a
I've
introduce
seen it,
and he's got the one step in, spin out, and it's pretty impressive. The one thing I say about it, and actually I was thinking about this the other day because I'm very much like Terry. Like I need social interaction. Like it's a big part of like my needs. If you like did a personality assessment. Whereas Steph is the opposite. She sometimes she's like overstimulated by being around too many people, and she needs to, just in like our relationship, she'll be like, I can't go see people tonight. And then sometimes she'll know, she'll say to me, "Hey, I made it's almost like I made a friendship, commitment for you tonight. You got to go see your friends because I know you need like your social cup filled."
The interesting part of that, though, is when I get to late Friday night when the last deal finally gets settled until Monday morning, I don't need that social interaction. I spend almost all of my weekends with my wife, daughter, son-in-laws, grandkids, and perfectly satisfied to just decompress, regroup, and come back for another week of it. I don't need the weekends to social. We get our social activity many nights a week, many days for open houses, lunches. So it's an interesting dynamic to be. By the time I get to the weekend, I'm ready to take the tie off and enjoy the family. Speaking
of ties, we're going to have to go here with him on it because we've referenced it a little bit.
He likes to talk about ties. I also think
it's anyone who knows Terry is. It is rare for Terry to not have a tie on. Like that, I can count maybe 20 days in 15 years that he hasn't worn a tie to the shop, and in the last 8 years, I could probably tell you 20 days where I did wear a tie personally.
I had a mortgage loan officer tell me last night that she did not recognize me at the real estate rumble where we were trying to help raise money for Alzheimer's, that she didn't recognize me in a pair of shorts without a tie on. She had to look at it 2 or 3 times to realize that's who it was. So.
And wait, there was a streak that you were how many days?
The streak can't go on for forever, Betsy.
It's
still going. I can't stop it. I'm
not
trying.
Worn the same tie.
So I am in the middle of the 90th month without wearing the same tie twice. So it's been real soon. I've got to pull a Cal Ripken and sit a game out and break the streak. But in the meantime,
I want to know
90 months without wearing the same tie twice. Are you going to just text
me one morning and be like kind of how Cal did it, where he just went in and told the manager,
so
hey, today's the day, and you're just gonna come in and just say.
A lot of agents will recognize me with a bow tie. I have quite a few bow ties, maybe 400 or 500, maybe more than that, 600-700 probably at this point. I've probably got about 2,000 or more regular ties.
Well, I want to visualize.
But I wore a bow tie last night.
How do you? Because you're always pulled together. I mean, nothing's ironed or. How do you keep these ties? Do you have multiple racks?
So I jokingly.
Have you ever had someone iron a tie for you?
Well, 2 things. I jokingly tell people that during this streak, my daughters got married, and I jokingly tell people I married them off to guys that I didn't even care for. I needed their closet space. I needed their dresses. I said, just leave those. I'll get you some new ones. But
that's offensive to Dan and Patrick here.
I needed the tie space, Brad. But no, so I have a pretty intricate ordeal of ties. But I start off in the morning by going through and picking a tie out, and then I go look for, and then I dress around the tie, and kind of put together the outfit. It's a little bit
painstaking. But how do you store them? Wait, are they color coded? Are they pattern coded?
So I have all of the bow ties separate from the regular ties.
That makes sense. Okay.
So I have a lot of clear bins that have drawers that pull out, and then I fold them so that they're not folded with their curve. I try to keep the major portion that you see at one length, fold the rest of it, and then put them away.
I've never heard this before. So
Have you seen his?
I've not seen his collection.
It takes a long time to get dolled up in the morning. It really does.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot to look that good.
Like that.
So by the time then I have to pick out a pocket square to match up with the tie. So I've got about 400 pocket squares. And an interesting fact, I have
401. I got you one in Italy.
That's right, you did get me the one in Italy.
I was afraid to get Terry a tie because when I was in Italy, the ties are a little different there. I'm like, I kind of know Terry's taste, but I think with ties, if you're at that many, like, you're pretty open to everything.
Last night, I'm down to probably my last 10 or 15 bow ties, but I had one red, white, and blue stars and stripes flag tie that we wore in celebration of the 250th anniversary of our country for the event last night.
Yes,
so happy to have that one last one. But
you might have to wear that again, though, because this is an important year, and July 4th.
No,
I'm just saying, Terry.
I may have to get another one.
I just want to know when the streak's going to end.
Then interesting fact is I have a matching jewelry box with my wife. So she's got her stand-up jewelry box, and I've got mine.
And it's all your cufflinks.
About 400 or 500 pairs of cufflinks. It's a lot.
I didn't know the cuff.
I'm kind of complicated, Betsy. It's a lot to.
I didn't know the cufflink story. Well, that's.
It's actually.
Is it verging on obsessive?
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry.
He needs people to keep sending him contracts so he can keep affording this situation. What I really want to understand is, all right, once it's done.
The streak is broken.
Once the streak's done.
He's going to wear overalls into the office.
No shirt, just overalls. Just overalls. Just overalls.
We'll put his coveralls and Winnie the Pooh in it. What are you going to do with the ties? When you're done, what are you
I am going to call through and donate a number of them. I've donated some over the years to some high schools that try to have athletes wear a tie for game day and that sort of thing. And I need to get back to, I've got probably 200 favorite ties. I've probably got 25 Lily Pulitzers. It's painful not to go back and wear them because I'm running out of the good stuff. So I've got to go through, cull through, pull some of them out that are not my favorites anymore. But I've had a number of agents, engineers, surveyors, people give me ties in a box. I'm talking about bringing their ties. I had a guy that worked at NASA that brought me in a big bag of ties.
And we re-gifted the NASA tie
after the one to Brad's neighbor.
To
Brad's neighbor that worked at NASA.
Oh, that's
had a NASA logo on it, which was kind of neat with the space flights.
Yeah. And he thought that was the coolest. I whenever to him, I was like, "Hey, I got a gift for you." He's like, "Yeah, a gift for me? What are you talking about?" And literally, I pull out this brown NASA tie.
Interesting enough,
it came from 1982.
Interesting enough, though, when you go back and you say about Brad says, "Hey, I've seen him 20 times maybe without a tie." So a lot of this comes back to Governor Mandel. Governor Mandel, I went to work for out of law school. I did a first career in the mortgage business for 20 plus years, and then I went to law school. I've been an attorney for 23 years. And when I came out of law school, I immediately went to work with Marvin Mandel, our former governor from 1969 to 79, who wore a suit and tie every day. He would come in the morning, look great. The receptionist would say to him, "Gov, you look great today. Do you have a big day?" And he would say, "I don't know. The day is young." And then eventually at some point in the day, he'd go around and someone like Barbara Mikulski or Steny Hoyer would call and want to go to lunch. And he would say, "Hey, Bob, do you want to go?" He'd want someone to drive him as he was getting older. And they were like, "Oh, Gov, I don't have my coat today. I don't have my coat. I'm not wearing a tie." And then he'd eventually get to me and he'd say, "Terry, would you like to go?" I said,
and you had your
"Gov, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play." So if I told you how many Baltimore Orioles day games that I went to with Governor Mandel and wore a coat and tie, he would park in about the Donald Schaefer Circle. We would get out, and I would say to him, "Gov, do you want to leave your suit coat in the car?" And he'd say, I'm good. That meant we're good.
So that meant
mind over matter. I would get a frozen lemonade. I would get an ice cream. I would, and Gov was a lot like me. He never wanted anything. I said, Gov, do you want something to drink? No, I'm good. I would get 2 of everything. He says, this is delicious. This is great. This is unbelievable. So I think I learned a lot out of that. But I'm comfortable in a suit and tie when I come in. Doesn't matter what the calendar is. Doesn't matter how busy we are. But I'm always ready to go to an open house. I'm always ready to go to the table. And that's my comfort zone. Not everyone has to wear a tie or coat or whatever
when I got in the business, I did wear a suit and tie every day. And
how that's changed.
You were very comfortable, right?
I was.
Didn't come natural.
I overheat easily. And we'll tell the story about the real overheating in the old office, but when I first really started going, I tried to kind of like match how Terry was operating. And then I really just couldn't keep up with the clothes.
You look at him and say, "I better."
Well, I'd try and get like these fancy suits and ties, and I wasn't like myself. I go back to that authentic comment. Like I just wasn't myself. Yeah. I then had an operation in 2018 where they had to go into something in my neck to pull something out, and so now there's a line on my neck right where a collar sits, and if I button my tie down, well, I lose like feeling in that side of my face because of where it's on the line, and that's really when I stopped wearing ties generally.
That's
I went open collar reason. From there, and I'm not out front as much anymore, so I can kind of get away
so
with
Terry, I have a question.
To wrap up the Governor Mandel thing, I saw him approximately half a dozen times without a suit and tie on.
Was he comfortable?
One time at the beach house, down for the MACO, for the Maryland Association of Counties. He came walking out in a collared open shirt and a bathing suit and flip-flops on, and I about lost it because the same thing. I had never seen him in that relaxed setting.
He probably was okay with that. But my question for you is, so much of what we do has changed with technology. Mm-hmm. And we'll have to
He's
talk.
a tech wizard over here.
Well, but so with that is less FaceTime with people, especially like remote online notarization and remote signings where people, I have a buyer signing tomorrow in New Jersey and we're sending a notary there to meet with them. And so there's not as much of the people time give me your thoughts on that.
One of the more reasons why I do like to go to the table is meeting it, but the other side of it is now with teams. We rely on our teams in our processing and post-closing underwriting, because it takes so much more to get these remote online notarizations set up, to have the teams, if a realtor wants to watch the settlement because they can't be there in person. So technology is becoming a much bigger issue, and trying to find a way to deal with people without the FaceTime. And I'm good on the phone. I like calling people on the phone, so I don't mind calling people. It's usually after hours, but next thing you know, it's 8 o'clock at night, and you've made 3 more phone calls, and it takes a lot of time to talk to them. Sure. But we're finding that a lot of the consumers, as they're becoming more educated on the internet and AI, they've got questions. They want to address concerns about title insurance and what it covers and why they need it. They have a misconception as to what we're actually insuring besides their peace of mind for their entire term of ownership. So it's really important to make sure that we
so it's kind of
stay
pivoted.
Connected.
You might not have that conversation at the table because you're not meeting with them in person, and there's a lot of hybrid signing. So when they show up at settlement, the number of papers they have to sign is really reduced. So instead of having that one-on-one or
you don't have as much
person,
time to build the connection. I think, one of the things that I like that Terry does is he has no problem taking a tough phone call or really walking it through with someone. And I think agents also know that he has no problem doing it. And so he'll jump in. Sometimes Terry's point, I think, about like the processing teams and the workflows and all of that, we've had to really invest in a lot of that because of exactly what you're talking about. if we can't give them the experience at the table because they're not coming to the table because it's remote, it's online or whatever, we've got to make sure that their experience is curated in a different way from the second that we get the contract and we start working on it all the way through post-closing, so that they still get the same excellent experience, but they may never step foot in our office. And so I think it's changed our kind of the way we operate, the way what we're looking for, what makes what is success in some of those ways. I think there's also early on when we first started going, we always had a saying like, we'll do anything that's legal or ethical. Oh, and I didn't say convenient because
it's not convenient.
There's many times where we'd always say if I've got a car and I got to drive somewhere to solve a problem, I don't have a problem, because that means we can go get it done. And
Betsy, I have my same mobile number from 1987. I was realizing today my first processor posted that it was 40 years since she got out of high school.
I saw Dana's post yesterday.
And I commented back that I've known her now for 40 years.
Wow.
So with 40 years in mortgage and title, it's incredible the connection, though. When you think back when the cell phone became available, I had a car phone. They drilled it in, bolted it into your car. It was always charged with your battery.
And GPS, like I remember going to refinances when there were a lot more than there are now, and people were really demanding that you came to them because this was
Betsy,
something they were going to do at night, and you had to print out MapQuest. I would go on MapQuest.
When I was Terry's processor, I used to have to, as part of his package, I would print out the MapQuest for where he was going to and home.
Prior to MapQuest,
went with his
I had a box in my trunk of the ADC maps.
Oh, I know it. Oh,
from
flip
Virginia,
the page,
Maryland, DC. And sometimes I'd have to pull over on the side of the road because it would go to a different jurisdiction.
Yeah.
A25, going to a page, going to a quad.
Well, if it's at night and you have your MapQuest or your ADC map, you can't see and drive at the same time. And
I got
well, that's the grid with Terry.
That's in 2008. I got LASIK surgery because I couldn't read the addresses on the houses. Going to the house, I'd pull up halfway up the walk and be like, "That's not the right address." So LASIK surgery solved that temporarily. Now the clickets when I get close enough go on, and I can do it.
Well, Terry was really a road warrior for when we first got into Eagle, and the amount of refinance. I can't even fathom how many closings you did on the road. But that was one of our service model offerings at that point in time.
I leased a car then, and I had a set amount of miles. And my husband's like,
"Oh, it flew right through that."
I'm like, "What's going on?" You were just like way over. So
we would go out to do 3 or 4 a night on a common basis, and just all over, not close by, but sometimes 3 or 4 counties.
I remember doing one night. I started at 5:00 in Catonsville, and then I went from Catonsville to Reisterstown to Owings Mills, to Towson, to Bel Air, to Falston, and then I did one last one. I started that closing at 11:35 at night in Parkville.
Was that COVID?
No, that was
it was way before COVID.
I would have gotten COVID on that run, but it was
the refi run.
That would have been
12.
2011, 2012,
okay.
And I literally we just had these closing, and people were like, "What do you mean?" Steph was like, "These people want you to come into their home at 11:30 at night to do a refinance." I was like, "They're saving $740. They didn't care when I was doing
Betsy,
this."
one of the advantages I did have coming out of the mortgage industry, and I spent a lot of time going over this with Brad and a lot of our other settlement officers now, is understanding the packages, understanding the terms. And on a refinance, the numbers are never exactly what the borrower is thinking they're going to be because of the payoffs and interim interest and new escrows and refunds. So at that era, when you had 4 or 5 files to go out, you didn't have time to review them. You had to do it live, and understanding the cash out and the per thousand, and just really spending the time. You had to, in the first 10 or 15 minutes at their kitchen table, get their trust. And we knew what they were. I understood it, like the back of my hand, to be able to put it together so I could break it down to explain to them, here's what it's cost, here's what your break-even point is, and then you're going to get a check back from your old lender of approximately X, and then they were like, awesome. So we built our business with that model of actually caring for people,
Well,
and
Terry
actually
also
be able
they
to
were
explain it.
thrilled because they were saving money, but that's
Terry
a
also
refi.
understood that. Well, what I'll say is, so let's delve into that part about your mortgage career, because I think it's been something that, while Eagle's not a mortgage company, I think it really, I know it helped me personally a significant amount, because Terry taught me to think not like a title person in some of these scenarios, but think like a lender and think a lender's underwriter. So when someone calls in and says, hey, we need a repair escrow to be put on this for, a roof that's got a hole in it, like, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
The mortgage
Well, so I
part
guess
of it.
start with, like, why did you get into the mortgage business? How long were you in the mortgage business? And then why did you decide to go back to law school?
Sure. So when I got out of college, I worked for about a year and a half selling restaurant and hotel supplies out on the road, just making, $1, $2, $3 at a time to make. But I made a living. I just kept crushing it, just chasing after it. And then I had a guy that had worked with me had left to go in the mortgage business, and he called me one night at home. I'll never forget it. And he said, Terry goes, can you come for breakfast tomorrow morning at the Pooks Hill Marriott in Bethesda at Rockville? And I said, he goes, I want you to meet someone where I'm working. And I remember getting off the phone. I said, at 7 o'clock breakfast meeting the next morning. I got off the phone. I said to my wife, I said, I think I'm getting a new job. She was doing what? I said, I don't know. I just talked to Eric, and I'm going to meet him tomorrow morning. So did not know the mortgage industry. Didn't know anything about it. At that point, I did own a house. I'd gotten an FHA assumption, so I didn't actually do a mortgage application. In 1985, when the rates went below 13%, I said to my wife, they're giving away this money. It's below 13%. We're buying now. We're buying now. But anyway, so
How old were you, 23?
23 at that point. 23.
You owned your first house at 23?
1985, yeah, 23.
That's
Terry is shattering
great.
the
I
national
got married at
average now
21.
at
I got married at 21.
The national average is 41.
41 is the average age of a first-time home buyer as of this year.
And sorry, we're going to come back to the mortgage side, but that has gone nothing but up in the last few years.
Last
Like,
5 years.
dramatically.
That's so sad. That's
Well, the issue, I mean, I was reading an article about it on Monday, and the repeat home buyers, especially if they had their property through the COVID run, are sitting with tons of equity.
Yeah,
and so they're going in, and even though they're changing out to a higher interest rate, their payment is staying relatively the same because of how much they're accessing that equity that's in their house. And so they're just dropping that equity on the new house.
Right.
And so their payment, it's a higher interest rate, but it's kind of in the ballpark of where it is. And so their lifestyle's changing. And as far as, I mean, I did a closing this morning right before we came here, and the guy's like, man, it's tough to leave this 2.625. He goes, but I'm going to Old Town Alexandria where, I want to be and I want walkability, and he was leaving Annapolis to go there. Life happens.
right.
So I think that's a pretty interesting part of it. All right, so you went that next morning
Okay,
at
so
7 a.m.
wait. So 41.
That's the average age of a first-time home buyer is 41 years old.
And so you're saying people are dumping their equity and going to a higher rate, but the first-time home buyers can't.
That-
Well,
they
they
have
can't.
nowhere to get in.
They've got nowhere to get in.
That really concerns me when I think back. That's a whole generation from my era of 23 to 41. It's 18 years. It's really concerning to me about the future when I talk about this country. I think homeownership is transformational in your life. It changes. I joke with people at the table every time, especially first-time home buyers, that, hey, instead of going to a concert in Philadelphia next month, you're going to be going to Home Depot and getting a trash can, getting some, and coming home and doing little projects.
It's wealth
and it's
building,
like,
where
and all of a
most
sudden
men-
you're like, I'd rather spend $500 on a lawnmower. I'd rather spend, it changes your
progressive
priorities.
insurance.
So it is a lot.
Yeah.
So when I got into, so next morning I went for the breakfast, made my mind up right there. I was going in the mortgage business based on a breakfast, met the president of the company and the guy I used to work with who was going to be my boss. Went to work in Kensington and Montgomery County. At the time, interest rates had just gone below 10% to 9.75, somewhere in there. And the guy that I went to work for had back in the days of a spindle and the little notes with the name and phone number to call that the person at the front desk wrote down the name and number. The spindle had to have 200 people
For
that it called to refis.
Okay.
Everybody wanted to refi because they were paying 12% or 13%. Mm-hmm. And I sat in his office for literally not a half a day maximum. Didn't know anything about mortgages. Listened to him talk to probably 12 people. What's your name? What's your interest rate? What's your address? What's your, blah, blah, blah. And the phone was ringing off the hook. By lunchtime, I couldn't take it anymore. I started taking phone calls and actually setting appointments. Jeez. Of course, he said, I'll go with you for your first appointment. I'll never forget. It was Saturday, 10 a.m. in Bowie, Maryland. It was
Were
a farm
you licensed at this point?
No, there's no licensing. This was long before NMLS numbers. It was just that there was not any licensing, which was the problem from the beginning is guys that had a problem or a complaint against them just moved to San Diego. They just moved to Florida. They just moved to a different region. So now with the national mortgage licensing system, it goes with you so that if you had a problem or fraud or some other problem, the industry is not going to get hired. At the second point, they did working for banks. I eventually, with my second job, wanted to work for banks. Banks were regulated differently. So if you worked for the bank, they had background checks so that you didn't have to do the individual licensing. So I had a 10 o'clock appointment at a little farmette. They work for the Department of Agriculture in D.C. My boss said, I'll go with you. Of course, at 9:30 Saturday morning, he called and says, I can't make it. The kids are playing soccer. You've got this. Just get in and get out. Get as much as you can. Went there, got the information, and got out. And after a year, I went to work at a bank. And just the rest of it just kept growing a little bit, became a manager, managing other people with originations, and then decided to go to law school. Went to law school from 99 to 2003, and got out and got to work in Annapolis with Governor Mandel. We had a conflict that I couldn't do the title at that point because I just was an attorney, but I was also doing the mortgages. I had a waiver from the bank that I worked for, which was the only person to have a waiver and have two careers. So I would give kind of switching hats, and I was doing both. But I couldn't do a conflict. So finally, in 2008, with the financial crisis, it just got crazy in the lending world. You've got new guidelines every week. I mean, the amount of changes were just never ending. It was a good time to disconnect. I didn't get rid of my cell phone. Kept the same phone number, but we decided to figure out how to get in the title business, and by 2010, we were fully in the title business as opposed to just the prep work and the deed work for our to-be partners. So then we went to that, and from 2010, it's hard to believe, Brad, 16 years later, here we sit.
We started at the same. That was the one that I started in the title business at the same time as T. He knew, because of his mortgage background, he knew so much more to help us. I mean, the first time I did my first closing, it was similar to his going to the farmette story. Like, he did one with me, and then they're like, okay, you're good to go. And whoop, and you just got out there and you had to figure it out. And I'll
make a few phone calls from the table.
I'll never forget my first settlement. It was not a refi, it was a purchase. Ooh. I know. And I mean, I didn't have any mentors. My husband helped me start this, and I was like, okay, you look through the loan docs. I mean, now it's so.
The fifth closing I ever did was probably the hardest closing I ever did in my entire life.
Why is that?
There was a gentleman who was a doctor, and it was in Gaithersburg, and I remember it because it was right next to the complex that Steph lived in, and I knew how to go through the HUD at that point, but I got twisted on a couple of things, and he got me twisted 10 ways till Sunday and had some questions. Oh, I mean, I had sweat through my entire suit at that point. Like, it was drenched, and I'm calling T, and he's on speakerphone. I'm sitting there. I'm trying to, the guys, and it was on the old HUD where, the buckets dumped over, and
the truth in lending or whatever.
Where page 2 or whatever, where it bucketed up to a different place. I couldn't understand how the buckets went. Yeah. And
we don't have that anymore.
That was a 5-hour Friday night settlement in the doctor's house in Gaithersburg, and I didn't have my phone on me, or I had my phone on speaker as we're trying to get through this. Terry's walking me through it with the guy, but I couldn't text Steph. I was supposed to be picking her up to drive her back to Baltimore, and she was like, where are you? And it was a mess, but
Brad's question about the mortgage business. The mortgage business was totally different than the title business. And after I went to law school, when we got into when we got into the title business, I did not even call any of the realtors that I knew from the mortgage business for at least a couple of years, because the title business was the other side of the coin. that just because you're in the mortgage business doesn't mean you understand. I didn't understand the title business.
Right.
I referred a lot of title work to a lot of people, but I didn't understand. And it's, to this day, it's really important to understand. It's like the staying in your lane. Like the lender stays in their lane. They rely on the title to stay in their lane. Yeah. And then the realtor is taking care of their lane. At the end of the day, I feel like in title, we're kind of merging the three together. But it took us, you only get one opportunity with your realtor to try to show that you know what you're doing. And it's not just like, hey, can you do me a favor and give me a deal? I didn't understand the title business at the beginning. Right. So we didn't go, we were a refi shop because it was much easier to understand, and the calendaring was much easier to do because at the time it was so overwhelming. The lenders would call you at 5:30, 6 o'clock and say, we just got to clear to close. The lock's expiring tonight. Can you go to Gaithersburg? And we were like, yes, yes, yes. Where Jack says yes, we went and did every one of them. But so then once we figured out and we had a little more firepower, manpower, staffing, we finally figured it out to the point where we're like, okay, now we're confident to go after the purchase market because we can understand the process and deliver the same experience that we were doing in the refi market.
That was smart.
It was very slow. Very slow.
Into it. But so one of the best things I think about what we do is the happiness that happens at the table. Mm-hmm. Most of the time.
Which was not the case when we first started doing purchases, because the amount of short sales that we were dealing with.
That's not fun.
And there was a lot of people, I learned to not just assume it was a happy moment.
I tell people all the time, early in my career as an attorney, we did a lot of family law. And family law was a lose-lose practice. No one was happy at the end. Right. Real estate, residential real estate, commercial real estate's the same way. It's a win-win if it's done well and you have strong partners. Strong partners, because you have someone who wants to sell, someone who wants to buy, and you're bringing it together.
And
it
people
usually
who don't want to sell is the problem. But, if they're doing it as a result of divorce or a bankruptcy, a financial stress. That's
the one thing we found with all of our backgrounds is understanding the transaction before you go to the table. So if it's a divorce, if it's a short sale, someone's unhappy because they're moving away from their mom to move to Nebraska, you can't run in and say, are you excited about the next chapter? You have to get a little bit of an inkling to understand so that you can have it go as well as possible. And there's a lot of people that have lost a spouse. They're selling not for a reason that they planned on. So you have to understand.
Rep, they've lost a parent.
You have to read the table. You have to read the room.
For sure.
And that's something you only
usually get about 2 minutes to really read the room and figure out what you got on your hands.
I had a settlement yesterday, the first-time home buyers, and I love when it's happy. They came with a plate of cookies that she made, and they weren't for the agent who happened to be a relative. They were for me, they were for Justin, they were for Meredith, they were for all the people that work so hard. And they weren't just cookies, okay? They were homemade chocolate chip, and then they were sugar cookies. On the sugar cookies, she had used royal icing and hand decorated each one, and they were a house with the clouds. And so I was just loved her happiness. She wore earrings that were houses. She was so excited about it, but that she recognized what we did for her and was bringing it.
It's nice when people appreciate it. I have a few memories. One specifically, one of Brad's agents specifically asked if I could do a settlement at 6:30 a.m. Her husband was going to Congressional to take some clients to a golf outing for business. And it was their own personal deal.
I don't do closings at 6:30.
It was their own.
You like sunsets.
It was their own personal deal. And I said, absolutely 6:30. Well, she got up 4 o'clock in the morning and made blueberry muffins. Aww. And they were in a towel. They were in a nice basket. They were still warm when we got there. They were at the parking lot. But it's a memorable. It's the little details. I have a hard time remembering to bring home milk at night. But you remember when people appreciate what you do for a living and that you did a nice job for them.
I'll ask you one last question. Do you have one favorite memory of your time in the title business thus far, or like one like the most memorable transaction?
It doesn't have to be the biggest either, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of them, to your point, like they stand out for different reasons. Or
well, I truly believe this. I think, and I think you do too, Brad. We treat every transaction the same. It is the most important transaction for the parties that are involved. Doesn't matter if it's a $200,000 condo or a $17 million house. We've done both. And I don't ever look at it as a revenue. I don't ever look at it's somebody's first house. It's someone who's trying to move to Florida. It's someone's
trying to accomplish a goal.
A goal. So
right.
I really enjoy every transaction.
Good answer.
And
Good
no,
answer.
I do. And I have a short memory. And by that I remember, like, if something doesn't go well on a transaction, I don't take it over into the next transaction. I just move on.
A goldfish,
I just keep moving forward because there's a lot of moving parts. And the one thing I will say on this is that having gone through, bought and sold a number of houses in my career and a number of business commercial transactions that we've done also, is really important to do what you do for a living from the other side of the table.
Sure.
When you do it from the other side of the table and all of a sudden you're the buyer or you're the seller or you're the person who's having to deal with an out-of-state attorney, you see how your own process is working. You understand when people say, I got overwhelmed by your qualia system. I had all these tasks I had to do and I got bombarded. So it's really important to go through what you do to make a living from the other side of the table, the perspective that gives you of how many details that people have to deal with, the moving parts to accomplish a smooth transaction. It takes really strong partners, and our strong partners that get what we do for a living understand the value that we bring to the table, whether it's 2 weeks from a settlement, 30 days, 60 days. There's a lot of involvement, and Brad's this way too. He answers his phone from the ballpark while I can hear him all of a sudden yelling, "Goal!" And one of the kids scores. But I try to answer my phone whenever I can. We're not heart surgeons on call that, we're every minute we're looking at our phone, but we're also available. And with the team concept that we use, there's somebody on the team. There's very few companies that have the firepower that we have with underwriting counsel, title underwriters that are on staff, people that are available. So if I'm at the table and Brad's at the table and you're at the table, there's someone else that can help solve the headache in that hour. Because being a solo practitioner in this is brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't do both.
Issue spot.
Problem solve.
Problem solve.
That's what we do for a living. People say, what do you do for a living? I add one more. I said, I read emails, we issue spot, and we problem solve. And if you can't do those three things, you're not going to have a lot of value to anybody in whatever industry you're in.
Yeah.
So if it didn't have issues and we couldn't solve them, we wouldn't have jobs. We wouldn't have a career, and we wouldn't be able to deliver the dream of the house. So.
Well, I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what we could actually accomplish here. We actually kept it pretty tame, considering what
we'll
the three of us together. You're going to have to come back in because there's going to be some other stuff I want to walk through. Because you are the most interesting man in Annapolis in a lot of people's minds, but I think you bring a lot of value to the table. We appreciate you joining us at the table and being at the head of the table for us today.
Had a great time, anytime.
Until next time, right?
Until next time.
Until next time.
See you, everyone.